All right.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to
Monday Night Live.
You're just better at it than me.
Okay.
I am Kate Semmens, and this is Dean Nixon, and we are with Turningleaf Wellness Center here in southern Utah, a little town called St. George. If you've never been here, put it on your vacation list for 2019 and
Absolutely.
come and hang out with us.
Absolutely. Normally it's warm.
Yes.
But it's not warm right now.
And it is not warm in Dean's office, which
No.
is where we are when we do our lives.
Yes. Too many windows. Great for viewing, not great for staying warm.
So as if the course of the live happens that we just get rosier and rosier, promise we're probably not getting embarrassed. We're just cold. So please send cocoa.
Send cocoa. Well, welcome everybody. We will not stall any longer. We are excited. Our topic for tonight is...
Dean really honestly has no idea.
I don't. She
what
said,
our topic
I'll surprise
is.
you. Surprise me.
He's like, okay. I'm like, you ready? Here we go. He's like, no. Boom. And we started. But I was talking with one of my girlfriends today, and she brought up a really good conversation that I thought maybe we could have.
Okay.
So we'll just jump right into it.
Let's do.
So I think it's one that most of us on the human plane, which are, hopefully everybody watching this video is on the human plane, deal with from time to time. And that is how to combat and battle your negative self-talk when you're like looking at yourself in the mirror or thinking about yourself, or just that negative self-image that we battle with. So her question earlier today was like, what can I do in those moments? We're always talking about using coping skills and stuff, not as the fire extinguisher, right?
Right, yeah.
So
not
in
as
order...
a break glass and use now, it's stuff that we need to be doing constantly.
Right, and so that would just lend itself to, as these things kind of creep up, if there's coping skills or other tactics that we can use in order to be able to not fall into those really heavy ruts of self-deprecating thoughts. Yes. Then that can help out in the long run as far as depression and stuff that would happen with that. If we can.
Oh, there we go. Yes. More information
if we can
coming
use it not as a fire extinguisher, right?
Right.
Because I know that's something that sometimes will bring on depression for me, is when I start to just get down on myself.
Yes.
Time and time, and I call it the downward spiral, right? So if you can stop that without using the fire hose and implement a coping skill.
What would we do?
When? So let's talk about those coping skills.
Let's talk about it. So this is one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite things to really work with. And we struggle so much with negative self-talk, and we spend a lot of time in it. And the reason that we do is because we're always in a preventative reactive response pattern. So we as human beings tend to be very reactive. We like to respond or to react to what scares us. And then we hang on to what scares us or scared us, and then we try to prep. So in the future, I don't have to go through that hurt or that pain ever again.
Right.
And so as a consequence of that, we spend a lot of time trying to focus on all the things that are wrong or all the things that are going wrong, because we believe if I can focus on those things and fix those things, then I no longer have to be uncomfortable. Then I no longer have to suffer. One of those things is the way we look, because we spend a lot of time outside listening to other people's view of us, or we've heard other people talking about other people, and we don't want to be that person. And so we spend a lot of time picking at the things we don't like.
Right. Well, and just the nature of our world now,
yes.
And this is like not any new information, like as far as, magazines and TV and movies and all of that stuff that we're just slammed with all day, every day. And I do think, because I'm an optimist, that it's hopefully getting better. Like you see like Dove ad campaigns where they're focused on every body being beautiful in its own right? Like there's definitely movements out there.
Yes.
But I think still there's the just constant in your face of what we should be looking like. Right?
Yes. What we should be looking like in order to, as we talk a lot in our work, to be of value. And where we look externally, we're looking outside of ourselves for all those things that make us okay, rather than really focusing on what makes us okay within. And so to answer your question, one of the things that the first responses to that would be, the first thing that we need to be aware of, the first thing that we've got to tune into is what am I doing? I've got to become aware. So the first step is awareness.
Okay.
So you're looking in the mirror, you're self-critiquing. It's a very subconscious thing. It's a very, and conscious thing, but we're picking. So then the first step is to become aware.
Right.
The second step.
I'm sorry, time out. Aware that we are doing the critiquing, or aware of what we're critiquing, or aware that we might have an issue with it? Like,
all of the above.
I guess the question,
all of
the answer is yes.
Yes, we have to become aware that we're doing it. One of the first things we do is we're not aware. It's kind of one of those things, we look in the mirror and it's a subtle little thought. It's a subtle little comment. Or maybe it's sitting in front of the mirror for an extended period of time and really just picking at the things and not liking them or focusing on those things. And the first step is to become aware of what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I picking up myself? What am I doing? And starting to become aware of it.
Perfect.
That's the first piece. Then the second piece is that once we become aware of it, is to not judge that.
Okay.
Right? To not judge it. Because normally that's what we do.
Yeah.
We will start to judge it. We will start to judge the fact that we're picking on ourselves because it's bad or it's wrong. So then we get mad at ourselves for that.
Oh, yes.
And so now we're making it, as you call it, the spiral or down tailspin, because it's like I'm looking in the mirror. Oh, I don't like my nose. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be thinking about that. Wow. This is why I feel this way.
Now I got to say an affirmation.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the second piece, the second step. So the first step is the awareness,
right.
Just to simply become aware. But as we become aware, don't judge it as right or wrong, good or bad. Just become aware and go, okay, this doesn't work. This is not healthy. So those are the first things that I would challenge you to say is just you look in the mirror, you see those things, you start picking, boom, you start to become aware. Oh, I'm doing this. This is not working. This is not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
The first things you want to be thinking. Don't judge it as bad or good or anything of that nature. That's the first step.
And maybe we should clarify because, what is not working and what is not healthy is not what you look like. It's your reaction.
Correct.
to the downward spiral.
What I'm doing is not working. Yes. So, and again, for those of you tuning in, what we're talking about is what happens when I stop and realize that I'm being very mean to myself, especially like if I look in the mirror and I start picking at it. That's the topic.
Yes.
So the first step is to become aware. We become aware without judgment. In other words, first of all, we pick up that we're beating ourselves up, but let's not beat ourselves up for beating ourselves up, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So then the second step is to do nothing. Yeah, do nothing. Because,
I don't even know what that looks like.
Because our first response is to react to that. Our first response is, okay, I have to counter it, or this is bad, or this is wrong. The first step is to do what you've never done before, right?
Okay.
To do what you've never done before. Normally it's like, okay, hurry and counter it. Say an affirmation. Hurry and do this. Hurry and do that. But again, we're being what? Reactive,
right.
And so we have to stop being reactive. So take a minute, take a couple deep breaths, take 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and just do nothing. That's the second step. Do nothing. Respond differently.
Okay.
The third step is one that we intuitively want to do, but the problem that we run into is we start to do an unhealthy pattern. What we try to do is we try to replace rather than refocus.
Okay.
Right? And we've talked about this before in other ways, but we try to replace. So all of a sudden I catch myself and I'm saying something negative about myself. Okay, we'll replace it with 5 affirmations because I said one negative thing, I got to say 5 positive things.
Right. Or I'm going to take a selfie and like throw it out there on Snapchat so that I get a lot of likes.
Right.
Right.
And we try and counter it and we try to get this external value type of thing. But we don't want to do that. And so I always equate it to the mind is like a child. And if you're dealing with a child, you don't just tell a child, shh, be quiet. Now I'm going to tell you 5 things about you that make you okay, and the child's going to stop tantruming.
Right.
Doesn't work, right? But what you would do is if you saw a child struggling with something, grabbing or behaving inappropriately, you would refocus them. You would redirect them to something else healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So then what we do is instead of trying to replace the thought with other positive thoughts, because again, if I have to replace a negative with a positive, I'm still hanging on to the what?
The negative.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm still validating it.
Mm-hmm.
So instead I refocus and I go, okay, do nothing, walk away from the mirror. I walk in the other room, take a couple breaths, take a sip of coffee or soda or something, taste it, feel it, pull yourself in your body. And then we refocus on the things that we want to feel. How do I want to feel right now when I look in the mirror?
Okay.
How do I want to feel when I go back to that mirror? And what are the things that I want to see when I look in that mirror? What do I want to see? And then I go back to the mirror and I start to look at the things and look for the things that I want to see.
Okay.
And I start to control that. So now I'm going to the mirror because I want to see my eyes. I'm going to the mirror because I want to see what's in my heart. I'm going to the mirror because I want to see how, the things that I like or the things that are fulfilling. And then when I get in there, then I focus on those things and then I start to see more.
That makes sense. Like, and then as you practice that, you're probably just going to see more and more, right?
Right.
And then increase your self-love.
Correct.
And your self-value, how you value yourself.
Yes.
I like that a lot. I was also just thinking when you were finishing that up about the 4 steps to confidence and the taking healthy risks piece of it, and how this would be a really big healthy risk to take with yourself, right? Instead of like stay doing the same thing, stay like unaware of all your negative self-talk or like just pretending like it's not there. Like, okay, I'm actually going to do this thing and attempt to, is it changing our mind? Like, or is it rewriting our story? Like, what is it?
It's changing the whole understanding of who we are. Okay. It's that concept of, that great quote, if you want what you've never had, you have to do what you've never done. Well, in order for me to do what I've never done, I have to see myself like I've never seen myself before. But if I keep going through the same patterns, if I go through the same behaviors, if I even try to change things, like then I don't learn the new depth of them, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so when you're learning a new language, for example, if you try to figure out, well, what's the name of a lamp? And then you try to go to that foreign language and then you're going, okay, lamp in this language means this, then you're still taking the meaning to it. Mm-hmm. But if you go into a new language and you look at that object, which is a lamp, and you see it as that name of that language, now you're creating a different understanding. Otherwise, you're just looking at a lamp and then going, okay, what's it called in this language? Okay, and then you're calling it that language. Okay. It's the same thing when I look at myself. If I'm looking at myself, but I haven't changed how I see myself or the language I use on myself, then I look at myself and I go, okay, I see myself as ugly, so I've got to say I'm beautiful. So I'm still going back to that old belief every time, and I'm using that as my reference to a new definition. That's not healthy because I'm still hanging on.
Right, you're still tapping into that belief that you're ugly.
So if I pull back and I go back at it at a different angle and I look at myself in a different way, now I'm rechanging, I'm reframing, I'm seeing it new for a new type, new way, and I start to value what I see.
I love it. That's awesome. You guys are quiet tonight. I was going to look here and see if anybody had any questions, but they're just listening.
That's right. Everybody's listening in. But because it's such a good topic, it's one that we really all need to really focus on, is how do I stop the negative chatter? How do I stop picking at myself? So if we use those steps, if step 1 is, first of all, is become aware. Become aware. And maybe it's not just when I look in the mirror, as this example was, or the question you had. Sometimes it's driving. Sometimes it's working. Sometimes it's interacting with your child, and maybe you do something, and so as a parent you're feeling like, oh, I'm a horrible parent.
Yes.
So whatever it is that we do, we have to first become aware of it. Then the second step in that is that and again, as we become aware, we don't what? Remember?
We don't put judgment on it.
We don't put judgment on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is bad. I shouldn't do this. And then we get into that negative headspace. Instead, we look at it as it is. So it's like, okay, this isn't healthy for me to do this behavior. This isn't healthy for me to say that about myself, or this isn't working for me to keep chewing on myself all the time. So that's the first step. The second step is to what?
Is to walk away.
Do nothing.
Do nothing.
Do nothing. Do nothing. And that's what
all
we
right. And then
do.
It was go walk away.
Then we're going to shift. But the do nothing. And I remember when I went through, changing behavior, and this is one of the best things that we can do in changing any behavior. And I remember years ago, 23 years ago, and I was running a treatment center. And as I was running the treatment center, I just really ran it with an iron fist. And I'd always just respond or react a certain way. And I realized after a lot of feedback from my staff and my subordinates that it just wasn't working the way I was managing. So I knew I had to do something different. And I'll never forget the day that something happened and I became aware, okay, you're getting mad. You're going to do this again. And so then I kicked into that second step, and I just stood there and I didn't respond. I did nothing. And the assistant director, he's looking at me and he's like, you okay? You okay? I'm just like, just give me a second.
Trying something new.
I'm trying something new. I'm doing nothing. And so I just stood there and I forced myself to do nothing, not to respond, not to react, to do nothing. And then I found the crazy part is I created this little space there. And once I created that space, something could come up, something could grow, something different occurred. And so by simply doing nothing, I was doing something.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, this new behavior came and this new response came, and I was more calm. And then that leads us to the second step, is to refocus or repurpose it or redirect. So instead of trying to replace the negative affirmation with a positive affirmation, I'm going to move totally away from the negative affirmation. I'm going to step away. I'm going to do something different. And then I'm going to think about next time I go into that interaction, how do I want to feel? How do I want to respond? What do I want to focus on? And I'm going to redirect. So my immediate redirection isn't a response or reaction to the negative thought by trying to replace it. My immediate reaction is, number one, become aware. Number two, do nothing. Then number three is to go and do something that pops me out of that energy. Yeah. Take a deep breath, sip on something, take a walk, feel the sun. Then you go back and redirect your energy towards what you want to feel or what you want to experience.
Yeah, I love that, because we talk a lot about that. Like, what do you want to create, right?
Yes.
And so I love that that's part of this process, is like, what do I want to create with that? How do I want to feel when maybe I get some feedback from a coworker?
Yes.
Instead of like spinning about what's wrong with me, like what do I want to create with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're out of time again. There you go.
You didn't even know
I didn't even know what the topic was today. So thank you for giving us a topic tonight to work with. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Please like and share the videos. Let's get the word out and allow others to find answers and solutions.
Yep.
And for those of you that are watching, work on those 3 steps. Shout out to us. Give us some feedback.
Yeah, let us know how it goes. We'd love to hear that.
I'd love to hear that feedback. You guys are awesome. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you all next Monday Night Live.
Bye.
Bye.